Hey guys, so if you're running for Congress and the person that you're trying to remove from power has done something so egregious, how would you respond? Hey, it's your buddy Muju's Magic here. We're going to watch Brandon Herrera's video about his opponent in the Texas congressional seat he's running for, talking about what that man did. And it is egregious. So I'll let the B-man, the AK guy himself, tell you the story.
This is not a video I ever expected to make, and I take no joy in making it. My plan this cycle has been to continue to tell the truth about Congressman Tony Gonzales and his voting record, how he continues to vote against the Constitution during his time in office. However, in the last few days, the case that I'm about to discuss has become the subject of national debate. And so I feel like I have an obligation to provide the most accurate details possible. I would have never expected in a million years to have to tell the story that I'm about to tell, nor would I ever consider it appropriate if this were mere conjecture. But at this point, these are no longer allegations. This has now been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be true, and the truth must be told. The voters have a right to know.
If you're in Texas, pay attention.
The district, the party, and the country, Tony Gonzales should step down. I'll start from the beginning. Regina Santos of Velez was a regional director for Texas 23rd Congressional District, Congressman Tony Gonzales. She was originally from Uvalde and had served prior running the Uvalde Chamber of Commerce. From everyone that I've spoken to and from every account that I've been able to find, she was beloved by the community and took great pride in her work. She joined Tony's staff in November of 2021 and dedicated the rest of her life to serving the district, including her hometown of Uvalde, with various issues that the district was facing. But on September 13th, 2025, first responders were called to her home after an alleged suicide via self-immolation, where she was declared dead the next day from her injuries.
Imagine lighting yourself on fire, what it takes to cause that.
She left behind her husband and an 8-year-old son. Several days after the fact, when asked, Tony said that he was, quote, heart-stricken at the news of her passing. He did not attend the funeral. Immediately after, a multitude of media sources such as Current Revolt asked a number of questions, including whether or not Tony and Regina were involved in a romantic relationship. Tony Gonzales' office responded to every inquiry except the latter. All records were then sealed by Uvalde PD, from the police reports to the autopsy to any mention of Regina and Tony.
Same Uvalde PD that let a bunch of kids get shot because the chief couldn't do his fucking job. Keep that in mind.
This fed speculation, and multiple publications started reporting on the alleged affair between Tony and Regina. This would be a bombshell, as Tony is a married man with 6 children and often uses his appearance as a family man for his public image. It would also be completely against house ethics rules, subject to an investigation and penalties. Tony, of course, avoided any public scrutiny, including running away from multiple reporters.
Multiple media outlets have reported that you had an affair with Regina Santos Aviles. Is there any response you have to that?
We're here at Fort Sam. We're here at Fort Sam here at the ceremony. Please have some respect. Thank you.
I understand the veterans fought for my right to ask
You have
questions.
some respect.
Hey, how are you doing?
He also canceled all media appearances and banned journalists and reporters from any of his future events. All of this came to a head a few months later, where for the first time, after no hard evidence had come out, Tony officially denied the affair.
The rumors are completely untruthful. I also say, I don't know exactly what happened.
Which, as we will soon find out, was a complete bold-faced lie. But at this point, with no concrete evidence and an official denial of the affair, the story more or less died for a couple of months. That was at least until early February, where a former Tony staffer from Uvalde who worked hand in hand with Regina for 2 years for the congressman decided to risk potential repercussions and come forward. Not only did he have his personal account of Regina telling about the affair with Tony, but he also brought forward screenshots of Regina admitting to the affair, specifically texting the staffer, and I quote, "I had an affair with our boss," obviously referencing Tony. He even told about the facilitation of his family cabin for Tony, which he only later found out was used for extramarital activities. After this news,
He had his own Epstein Island. He had his Epstein cabin. Tony Gonzales, what is wrong with you, bro? Oh, man. Your wife is going to beat you to death with a chancla.
Started to break, Tony continued to double down and deny any wrongdoing, despite for the first time, material evidence is starting to come forward. Now, at this point in the story is where, unfortunately, I get involved. In Tony's denial, he blamed me for his actions, saying it was my fault that a, quote, disgruntled former staffer was given a voice and that he wouldn't engage in personal smears. Which is rich, considering the same person who is now condemning personal smears ran an entire campaign last cycle personally smearing me.
And that's a fact. I watched this race very thoroughly. Brandon Herrera got smeared ridiculously by this piece of shit. And it's disgusting. This is what happens when you have a politician versus someone like Brandon who is getting into politics to make things better and doesn't want to be a politician. He's already made himself. He doesn't need to make money off politics. Tony Gonzales,
Bob Good endorsed my opponent, a known neo-Nazi. These people used to walk around with white hoods at night. Now they're walking around with white hoods in the daytime.
But what I find most interesting is that now faced with proof, he condemns me and the staffer who came forward with evidence while refusing to deny the claims that have been made. And now, the bombshell. In the last week, Regina's husband has stepped forward. Not only was he personally willing to confirm the affair, but he went on to go and tell his side of the story that he was keeping private out of concerns for his son. Which is completely understandable, but now with the evidence that is coming forward from former staffers, he stepped forward to set the record straight. He also came forward with text messages from Regina's phone, confirmed by forensic software, showing that not only was Tony involved in a sexual relationship with Regina, but that he pressured her into it from a position of power.
Fucking illegal! Can you imagine what that man went through? To know your wife was basically raped by her boss, and there's nothing you can do about it because he's in a position of power? It must have taken everything in that man's... I kudos to that guy, because I'm not him. He's a better man than me, because the first thing I would have done is gone and shot that son of a bitch in the face.
Her even mentioning several times that he was going too far, and even at one point asking if he was sober. These are only a handful of texts that have been put forward of what I'm told are thousands of texts between Regina and Tony. Keep in mind, this is a married congressman with 6 children talking to a married female subordinate. From Tony to Regina. Then send me a sexy pic. Regina says, I swear my life has been a telenovela for the past 7 days. You really don't want a hot picture of me. Tony says, yes, I do. Hurry. She asks, is this a test? Later she says, no, I just don't like taking pictures of myself, to which he replies, I'm just such a visual person. He then goes on to ask her favorite position. She asks, yours first, and then goes on to ask, so is this why you're quiet around me sometimes, because you think I'm hot? He responds to this by saying, on top, pinning your legs. To which she then pumps the brakes and says, this is going too far, boss. So how long have you thought I was this hot? He says, what do you like? And then answers, since you worked at the Chamber of Commerce in Uvalde. And then following up on that, reminder, this is a married congressman to a married subordinate. He asks, anal? She replies, no. The text.
Never fuck with a married woman. That's it. Just it's simple shit, man. Like, I'm all for like the polygamy thing. I've said that many times on the channel, but that's consensual between multiple people. This is coercion from office. How is this bastard not in jail? How has his wife not killed him yet? I don't know about you. I know a lot of Mexican girls and Hispanic females, and the first thing they want to do is choppy on the lower end if you do something like that. And this guy is in Congress? In Texas, of all places.
Then from this point lead to them arranging to meet up at the cabin that then gets picked up by the story that the other former staffer had told, where he unwittingly set up an extramarital affair between his boss and his father. These texts and the confirmation of a long-denied affair have sparked national outcry. Local State Rep Wes Friedel has called for Tony to step down, while members of Congress have either asked for him to suspend his campaign or even outright resignation. And over the last few days, their complaints have made nationwide news, including reaching the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, why should Tony Gonzales resign, given these very serious accusations?
There are serious accusations, and it must be taken seriously, and I've told him he's got to address that with his constituents.
It has also come out that the House Ethics Committee has launched its own investigation. At this point, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Tony Gonzales is guilty of an extramarital affair and lying to his family, the press, and the people, of abusing a position as a member of Congress for sexual misconduct, and wrecking a home to the degree that a young woman is now dead. Up to this point, my campaign against Tony has been relying solely upon the issues, problem that I have and his voters have with his voting record. But this goes beyond that now. It is now irrefutable that Tony Gonzales is a wicked man and must be removed. True. Now, next week on March 3rd, voters will have the opportunity to have their voices heard. But as we've seen, this goes far beyond politics. While Tony might rightfully lose his job, a husband and son are still grieving a wife and mother. So right now, while I have your attention, I'd like to ask you to help me.
Now, this is where most people will go to themselves in their campaign. Brandon does a Jesus move here. Kalishnachrist does exactly what a man should do.
Help the family that Regina left behind. In the past few days, I've had the privilege of speaking with Regina's husband, and with his permission, we've set up a GoFundMe to help with the family and specifically to set something aside for the son. He seems like a great kid with a promising future, and we'd like to help them with that as much as possible. And Tony's made it clear he's not only not going to help the family, but instead he's going to go on the offensive and attack them. So anything our community can do would be greatly appreciated, I'm sure. So there's no sponsor on this video. There's no asks, nothing other than please help us to help a young boy face a future without his mother. And lastly, to Ernest Anthony Tony Gonzales. Hasn't this gone far enough for you? When this all started, my only qualms with you were your voting record. 2 years ago, when I lost that election, we sat down like men. You shook my hand, you looked me in the eyes, and you promised me things would be different. I was genuinely horrified to find out what kind of man I shook hands with that day. And unlike the smears you've done on me, you'll find that nothing I've said in this video was taken out of context. These are simply your words and your actions. This is your last chance to be a man and take some accountability.
I feel like it's going to happen.
Step down. For the sake of the country, for the sake of Texas, for the sake of common decency. Step down.
Go check out Brandon Herrera's page, guys. Go check him out on YouTube. Go find the link to that GoFundMe and donate some money to that family. That woman was coerced to the point where it was basically a grape, and she lit herself on freaking fire over the guilt and the shame because Tony Gonzales forced her into a situation that she could not get out of. It's unfortunate that she didn't tell her husband and that her husband didn't just take a gun and fix it for her. It's difficult to do when it's a seated member of Congress. It becomes very difficult to do that. So don't blame the husband. Don't blame the girl. Blame Gonzales. And if you're in that area, vote Brandon Herrera. Go to his page, go to his YouTube channel, because that's where the link is at, and $5. One less mocha tomorrow morning, and you can help that little boy have a decent life, which is going to be shitty regardless because his mom is gone forever. He will never get her back. Tony Gonzales gets to go living his life. Beware of politicians who are there for power. The people in politics should be there to do well. Tony Gonzales has shown his true colors, and it's not to do well. It's for the sake of status and power and money. Avarice and hubris. Anyway, Go follow the AK guy, Kalishnachrist as I like to call him, or AK Jesus, whatever you want to call him. Brandon Herrera, he's awesome. He's rad. This is a terrible, terrible situation. And I'm surprised Brandon hasn't taken him by the collar and beaten the brakes off him. I've seen Brandon box. He can throw hands. Anyway, I'm Moo Juice Magic. I love you in the face. And don't seek power. You'll just do stupid shit like Tony Gonzales.